Welcome to Hawkins Talkings. I'm Mr. SEIFU, the counselor, your host, where I aim to enhance and advance your mind. I don't profess to have all the answers, but I have a host of thoughts, ideas, opinions, and musings to stimulate your mind. In today's Curious Conversation segment, we will be discussing cultural stinginess. Cultural stinginess. And when we come back, I will define that term. Stay tuned. Now we're back to the Curious Conversation segment. And the term that we were talking about before we left is cultural stinginess. And what does that mean? Okay, follow my thought. When you look at the Russian ballet, you look at the Chinese ballet, you look at the American ballet, all of these are cultural arts that were born in those certain cultures. And being that said, it is usually that ethnic group that participates in that cultural art. Unfortunately for African people after slavery, we have been dispersed throughout the world. And being that we were dispersed, one of the common new topics now is cultural appropriation. Now, when we look at cultural appropriation in terms of Black people globally, I don't really necessarily say that Black people, we are capable of cultural appropriating, but most of our cultural appropriation has come through force. Since African people have been dispersed throughout the globe, we have been forced to culturally appropriate just to survive. Now, if we reverse that, continue to follow me. Let's take American music. It is already a known fact to know that the origin of American music was created by Black people. Country music, what we call rock and roll, R&B, rhythm and blues, gospel, and hip hop. When you think about that, I when I saw the movie Get Out, thought of like, wow, all of our musical genres in America have a white doppelganger. So whether you start with jazz, you had white big band groups that mimic the Black groups. When you got to rock and roll, they mimic the old blues groups. When you got to rhythm and blues, they mimicked us. All of us remember that scene in the Five Heartbeats where the Five Heartbeats are getting their music deals, and then you hear their voice, but on the album cover is a right face. And a recent issue just now brought me back to that thought when we looked at Lil Nas X and his, new country hit. They said it wasn't a country song. And it's always ironic that the people, again, country music is just a white version of rhythm and blues music. Okay? That's all it is. Now, when we retwist what we created, the Billboard chart says it's not country. Stay with me. Now, Billy Ray Cyrus comes on and says, let me stamp it. And now when Billy Ray Cyrus stamps it, it becomes a country song. So again, when we don't control our cultural arts, we allow anyone to come in and swoop in and monetize it and benefit from it more than we do. So that leads me to my point of cultural stinginess. What if we had a writers and a music guild to where Black people globally controlled our music? How would that look? So let's say two industries, athletics and music, because those are the two industries that, are billion-dollar industries. We are the main sources of them, but we don't control all the outside sources to where the money is really generated. So again, follow me. When you look at the Wharton School at Harvard, it's the Wharton School of Business, because the white males who created Harvard were involved in business, cotton, tobacco, black people, gold. So you follow. They said, well, shoot, we need to have an educational system that will continue to perpetuate these businesses. Now, what has happened with the degrees that black people have received in America, and right now at this current time, there's probably been no time in history to where we've had so many degreed people. But why are we still unemployed and still going through the problems in our community if we're truly educated? We have to start creating degrees in schools like the Wharton schools that speak directly to what we are living in the real world. So follow me. Like in sports, you have agents, you have physical trainers, you have coaches, you have tutors, you have lawyers. And if we looked at the NBA, Major League Baseball, and NFL, most of those positions are filled by white folks, and which I say should not be. Not because, as many would say, that you're racist or bigoted. We're the only culture that truly practices democracy throughout the globe. And usually what happens is we're exploited for it. Again, follow me. What if we said for the next 500 to 1,000 years, see, I'm not a Monday through Friday thinker. So again, you guys want to follow white culture. That's what they do. They plan for hundreds of years, centuries, and millennia, not for a week. So what if we say right now with the HBCUs that we have in America, I believe it's like 118, and there are 53 nation states on the continent. So we already know that European schools have satellite Ivy League schools throughout the globe. What if in the 21st century, we started to take the HBCUs in creating satellite universities in the Caribbean and the continent? Start schools and things that we participate in. Again, why not have a school of coaching? Since we're so immersed in athletics, we should have a school that focuses on coaching. Once they turn professional, they need agents to negotiate contracts. Why don't we have a school of agents? Okay? They need physical trainers. Why don't we have a school of physical trainers? So we can start to create situations to where we benefit from them fully, 100% and unapologetically, because every other culture does it. I don't know why sometimes that, maybe because we're the parents of the globe, right? And we just have this paternal and maternal feeling for the globe. But the globe has shown that they don't have those feelings for us. So again, follow me. We have AAU sports. We have youth football. Where if all those AAU games were held at the black universities? That generates money. What if, in terms of those AAU tournaments, we made sure that all the athletes, and when I say AAU, this is basketball for people who might not know, and we know Little League football is huge in America, just sports in general. And we are the raw material to make this billion-dollar industry run. But what if we just start saying, like here, LeBron have already said that Lil Bronny is, I love Krzyzewski and he's going to Duke. What would happen if LeBron James Jr. went to Howard University, how that would create a paradigm shift? What if we say that all the black athletes in the 21st century say that we're going to do a 360, really a 720, and start to send all of our kids to the historically black colleges to generate that money at those schools? Because Duke, the North Carolinas, the Arizonas couldn't have the engineering programs, couldn't have the NASA programs, couldn't have all the wonderful programs that they have if sports weren't generating that money. Most of the college coaches, shoot, they're pretty much paid almost similar to NFL coaches. Why shouldn't they be black coaches? Why shouldn't they be? But of course, I know through those comments, people would say, oh, you're racist, you're bigoted. No, I'm just being culturally stingy. The Russian ballet is not integrated. Chinese ballet is not integrated. The American ballet is integrated now since 2015. Misty Copeland finally is a lead dancer, but that's after 75 years. And that's more by doing what is politically correct than wanting to do so, even though Misty has the talent easily. But many of black women and black males have had the talent historically, but we weren't allowed in. Which leads me back to the point of we need a couple millennia of healing. And then part of that healing is we need to be culturally stingy, because we're borrowing from everybody else and we don't even remember who we historically have been. Black people globally are a very noble people. And I think we need to use some of that remembrance to start something different in the 21st century. Just a thought, a couple opinions, a couple ideas. Tell me what you think. Hit the notification button. Send your comments. I'm not being mean. I'm just doing what the globe is doing. And if you look at the world, black people pretty much get along wherever we go. Wherever we end up becoming part of the community. Not coming to harm anyone, not coming to take anything away, but just our freedom to be fully who we are, no matter where we end up on the globe. Something to think about. We'll be right back with the domain of discourse. Welcome back to Hawkins Talkings. And now we're on the segment, the domain of discourse, where we decide what the topic is that we're going to talk about. Today we're going to talk about the contrast that has been historically consistent in America. We're going to talk about 2 deaths that happened in Minnesota. One of a white woman and one of a black man. We all remember when Philando Castile was killed on Facebook Live by an officer, where his wife was very explicitly explaining what was going on to the officer. And her husband was killed in the passenger seat with their baby, their young child in the back seat. This was caught live on Facebook. Geronimo Yanez was not convicted. The judge said he wasn't guilty. A year later, just as tragically, Justine Damon was killed by an officer in Minnesota, Muhammad Noor. And Muhammad Noor was convicted. Miss Damon made a call to the police to say that she heard a sexual assault in the alley and called the police, and the police came to the alley. Miss Damon walked up to the police officer's door. Mr. Noor thought that his partner was in danger and fired one shot and unfortunately killed Miss Damon. Same state, similar situations. One is being filmed though. Muhammad Noor was convicted of second-degree murder of Justine Damon. 3 days after, the Damon family was awarded $20 million in the lawsuit. 3 days later, that is quick justice. We have one that is filmed and someone trying to talk to the police to create a non-hostile situation, and the man is killed in front of his wife and his child. You tell me. Most of the time we say, that's crazy, no, it's not as consistent. That's why we had to create in the 2000s, Black Lives Matter. They still don't. It's unfortunate, but that's what we call psychic violence. See, what the brain does is they see that, okay, we want to see that justice is equal. We have very similar situations, but the one advantage of the Philando Castile situation is it was filmed live. And all of us have seen on all social media many of times white or European Americans doing the same act, and they're talked down, negotiated with, so that they can spare life. But when it's someone of African descent, historically has always been shoot first and ask questions later. From 1619 to 2019, that has not changed. What are we going to do? We have seen that the people are either unwilling, don't want to, are indifferent to the plight of African people. And that's not just in North America, that's globally. So as we talked about in the Scariest Conversation today, I think for our global safety, we're going to have to start practicing cultural stinginess. African people globally, so we can remain on the planet. Just another Mr. SEIFU musing. And thank you for watching Hawkins Talkings. Hit the notification button. Subscribe to all of our social media. And we will stimulate your mind. Give thanks to Video Brothers, Clockwork Tracks, and the Diaspora Black Movement family. See you next time on Hawkins Talkings. This is Mr. SEIFU, the counselor, your host. Until next time.